Armin had always been a man who kept his emotions buried under the weight of responsibility and success. He built his empire on discipline, long nights, and a refusal to let sentiment distract him. But that night, as he sat alone in his penthouse apartment overlooking the glowing city, the image of Zara on the pavement wouldn't leave his mind. Her face, pale and tired, still carried the traces of the girl he once knew, the girl who used to sit with him under the old mango tree in their village, telling him he could achieve anything if he just believed in himself. She had been his anchor back then, the only person who didn't laugh at his dreams of leaving poverty behind. And now, the very same girl, reduced to begging on the streets. It felt like a cruel twist of fate. He poured himself a glass of water, but his hand trembled as he lifted it. He thought about how her eyes darted away from him when he first recognized her, as if ashamed to be seen. He thought about the two children clinging to her sides, their little faces weary with hunger and fear. He couldn't ignore it, not when his heart told him he owed her more than he could ever repay. The next morning, he sat at his desk in the office, unable to concentrate on the stack of contracts and proposals waiting for his signature. His assistant, Samir, noticed his distraction. "Sir, is everything all right? You haven't touched your coffee, and you're staring at the same page for 10 minutes. Armin looked up, his jaw tight. "Samir, I need you to find someone for me. Her name is Zara. I don't know her surname anymore, but she was on the street near Liberty Market last night. She had 2 children with her. I want to know where she lives, everything about her situation." Discreetly, Samir blinked, surprised. He had worked with Armin long enough to know that his boss rarely involved himself personally with anyone outside his inner circle. But the tone of his voice told him this wasn't a request to be questioned. He nodded. "Consider it done." By evening, Samir returned with the information. Zara was living in an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city, a structure that had once been a textile warehouse but was now crumbling and half forgotten. Dozens of families squatted there, surviving on scraps and charity, their children running barefoot across cracked concrete floors. Armin's chest tightened as he listened. He didn't wait for a driver this time. He got into his car himself and drove there, the thought of her suffering gnawing at him with every turn of the wheel. When he arrived, he parked a short distance away. The building loomed in the dusk, broken windows like hollow eyes staring back at him. The air was thick with the smell of dampness and decay. He walked through the entrance cautiously, his polished shoes crunching on the debris-strewn floor. Families huddled in corners, their belongings in ragged cloth bundles. And then he saw her. Zara sat on a mat near the far wall, her children pressed close to her sides. She was trying to break a piece of hard, stale bread into smaller portions, pretending it was enough to fill their stomachs. The sight pierced through him, each crack of the bread like a blow to his chest. "Zara," he said softly, his voice carrying across the cold air. Her head snapped up. For a moment, she froze, disbelief etched across her face. Her lips parted, and her eyes widened as though she had seen a ghost. Then she quickly looked down, pulling her children closer. "Armin," she whispered, almost afraid to speak the name aloud. He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "It's me." Her hands trembled as she tried to cover the children's thin shoulders with her shawl. "What are you doing here? Why would you come to a place like this?" "I had to see you," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "Last night, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But it was you. After all these years, it was really you." She looked away, her lashes wet with unshed tears. "You shouldn't have come. There's nothing here worth seeing." "Don't say that," he said firmly. "Don't ever say that. You are worth everything, Zara. Always have been." Her throat tightened as she bit her lip. She hadn't heard her name spoken with such kindness in years. He sat down across from her, ignoring the filth of the floor. For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy with all the years lost. Then he asked quietly, "What happened to you? Where did life take you that brought you here?" Her hands tightened around the bread. For a long time, she said nothing, as though speaking would make her humiliation more real. But his eyes, filled with genuine concern, broke down the wall she had built around her heart. She drew in a shaky breath. "I thought I had found love," she began. "I married against my family's wishes. He was charming at first, full of promises, full of dreams. I believed him because I wanted so badly to believe in something. But dreams don't last forever, do they?" She let out a bitter laugh, but it quickly turned into a sob. Her children looked up at her, confused, but she stroked their hair gently, as if apologizing for the pain she was about to recount. He changed, Armin. The man I thought I loved became someone I didn't recognize. He gambled away what little we had. He drank until he forgot we existed. And then one day, he left. Just like that, no money, no home, nothing. I begged my family for help, but they had turned their backs on me the day I married him. To them, I was dead. Armin's fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to find the man who had abandoned her and make him pay, but he forced himself to stay calm, to let her continue. I tried, Armin. I tried to work, to feed my children. But with no qualifications, no one would hire me. And every day was a fight just to survive. I lost everything, my dignity, my hope, my future. All I had left were these two little souls. She pulled her children closer, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. They are the only reason I'm still breathing. Armin felt his chest ache with every word. The Zara he had known had been full of light and laughter, a girl who dreamed of teaching children and changing lives. To see her broken like this was almost unbearable. Zara, he said softly, leaning closer. Why didn't you come to me? You knew I would have helped you. She shook her head, shame clouding her eyes. How could I? You were building your life, becoming everything you always said you would. In me, I was sinking deeper into failure. I couldn't let you see me like that. I couldn't burden you. You were never a burden, he said fiercely. You were the one who believed in me when no one else did. Every time I wanted to give up, I remembered your words. You were my strength. And now, I won't let you go through this alone. Not anymore. Her lips trembled, but she looked at him with doubt. Why, Armin, why would you care after all these years? He swallowed hard, his voice low but firm. Because I never stopped caring. The words hung between them, heavy and unshakable. For a moment, she searched his face, trying to find insincerity, but all she saw was the same boy she once knew, now a man hardened by life but still holding on to the kindness she remembered. Her children tugged at her shawl, their innocent eyes curious. Mama, who is he? One of them asked softly. Zara brushed their hair back tenderly. He's an old friend. Armin smiled gently at them, though his heart burned with the desire to do more than just be a friend. And maybe more than that, if your mama lets me. Zara's cheeks flushed with both shame and hope. She lowered her gaze, unsure of what to say. Armin reached out, not to touch her, but to offer a hand across the space between them. Let me help you, Zara. Please, you don't have to live like this. Not when I have the power to change it. Her pride battled with her desperation. For so long, she had survived on scraps, her dignity stripped piece by piece. Accepting his help felt like admitting defeat. But deep inside, another voice whispered, maybe this was mercy, maybe this was fate, maybe this was the second chance life was offering her. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, I don't know if I can accept. Armin's eyes softened, his voice steady. Then don't think of it as accepting. Think of it as me repaying a debt I've owed you all my life. You saved me once, Zara, with nothing but your faith. Let me save you now. For the first time in years, a flicker of hope passed across her face. She looked at her children, their tired eyes silently pleading for a future brighter than this crumbling warehouse. Her heart broke, but in that breaking, she found courage. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. And in that simple gesture, everything changed. Armin could still feel the weight of Zara's trembling hand in his as he drove her and the children away from the warehouse that night. It was late, the streets nearly empty, yet he could sense her unease. She sat in the back seat, her children leaning sleepily against her shoulders, while her eyes darted around, as if waiting for someone to stop them, to remind her she didn't belong in a car this clean, this warm, this safe. He glanced at her in the mirror, his heart twisting at the way she clutched the shawl tightly around her children, as though someone might snatch them away if she let her guard down. You don't need to worry anymore, he said softly, his voice cutting through the silence. You're safe now, Zara. Her eyes flickered toward him for just a moment before dropping to her lap. She wanted to believe him, but life had taught her not to trust easily. Too many promises had been broken before. He didn't press her. Instead, he drove her to a modest but well-kept apartment building on the quieter side of the city. It wasn't one of his luxury estates. He knew throwing her into that kind of world immediately would only overwhelm her. Instead, he had prepared something simple, safe, and comfortable, a place she could breathe without fear. When they entered, the children's eyes widened. The apartment wasn't large, but it was clean, freshly painted, with warm lights and soft furniture. There was food stocked in the kitchen, clean clothes folded in the closets, and even toys on a small table in the corner. The little boy rushed to the toy table, his eyes lighting up as he picked up a car, while his sister clutched a doll, staring at it as though afraid it might vanish. Zara stood frozen, her eyes glistening with tears she didn't want to shed. "Why would you do all this for me?" she whispered. "Because you deserve it," Armin said, his voice steady. "Because your children deserve it. And because I promised myself I'd never turn away from someone I care about." Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. For her, this was all too much, too sudden. She wasn't used to kindness anymore. That night, while her children slept peacefully for the first time in months, Zara sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. Armin sat across from her, giving her space yet refusing to leave her alone in her thoughts. "You don't have to decide everything right now," he said quietly. "Take your time, rest. When you're ready, I want to help you build something more permanent. A job, independence, a life you can be proud of again." She shook her head slowly. "I can't just let you carry me like this, Armin. I've already lost so much of my dignity. If I take more from you, what will be left of me?" His gaze softened. "You're not taking, Zara. You're standing back up, and I'm just holding out my hand so you don't fall again." The words struck her deeply. No one had spoken to her like that in years. No one had looked at her as though she still had worth. She lowered her head, hiding the tears slipping down her cheeks. In the days that followed, Armin arranged everything carefully, making sure Zara never felt like she was being forced. He introduced her to one of his companies, not as a charity case but as someone with potential. He placed her in a small administrative role, where she could learn, earn her own money, and regain her confidence. At first, she was hesitant, doubting herself at every turn. She would stare at the computer screen, her fingers trembling over the keyboard, afraid of making mistakes. But Armin was patient. He arranged for someone to guide her, to teach her, and little by little, she began to learn. Her children, meanwhile, started school. The first day she dropped them off, Zara clung to their hands, reluctant to let go. But when she saw their smiles, the way their eyes lit up at the sight of other children, she realized this was what they had been missing: hope, structure, a future. Every evening, when they came home chattering about their lessons, she felt something she thought she had lost forever: the joy of being a mother who could dream for her children again. Armin often visited, not to impose but to check in. He brought groceries sometimes, or books for the children, or simply sat with Zara as they talked about the past. She laughed occasionally now, a sound he hadn't heard from her since their childhood, and each time, it filled the emptiness in his chest. But there were nights when he still found her staring out the window, lost in thought. One evening, he asked, "What are you thinking about?" She sighed softly. "About how quickly life can change. One day I was someone's daughter, someone's wife. I had a home, a name. Then, suddenly, I was no one. Just another beggar on the street. I still wake up sometimes thinking it's a dream, that I'll open my eyes and find myself back in that warehouse with nothing." Armin leaned forward, his voice firm yet gentle. "That part of your life is over, Zara. You're not going back there. You're building something new now, something better. And you're not alone." Her eyes met his, filled with gratitude and a fear she couldn't put into words. She wanted to trust him completely, to believe he meant every word, but deep inside, the scars of abandonment still whispered doubts. Time passed, and Zara grew more confident in her work. She earned her own income, began to manage her household, and even started saving for her children's future. The light in her eyes returned, and she carried herself with a quiet strength that Armin admired deeply. Yet, despite everything, she kept a distance between them. She was grateful, yes. She respected him, even trusted him. But love, that was something she wasn't ready to allow herself again. One evening, as they sat together after dinner, Armin finally spoke the words he had been holding back. "Zara, I don't just want to see you survive. I want to see you live. And I want to be part of that life." Her breath caught in her throat. She looked at him, stunned, her heart pounding in her chest. "Armin, you don't know what you're saying. I'm broken. I have baggage. My past doesn't matter," he interrupted gently. "Your past doesn't define you. I see the woman you are now, the strength, the courage, the love you give your children. That's what matters. And I want to stand beside you, not because you need saving, but because I want to share whatever future we can build." Tears filled her eyes, her emotions overwhelming her. She shook her head slightly, as though trying to push his words away. I don't know if I can give you what you deserve. I don't know if I have anything left to give. Armin reached across the table, taking her hand in his. You've already given me more than you know. When we were young, you gave me faith when I had nothing. You believed in me before anyone else did. That belief is the reason I am who I am today. You've already given me a lifetime's worth of love, Zara. All I want now is the chance to return it. Her tears spilled over, and for the first time in years, she let herself cry without shame, without holding back. His words pierced through every wall she had built, reaching the part of her that still longed to be seen, to be loved, to be cherished. The children, sensing their mother's tears, rushed over, clinging to her. She hugged them tightly, and Armin sat quietly, knowing the moment was fragile. It was then, holding her children in her arms, feeling Armin's steady hand still holding hers, that Zara realized something she had been afraid to admit. This wasn't charity, and it wasn't pity. It was love, pure and unshakable. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to believe in it again. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt the heavy chains of her past loosen. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was beginning to live. And as she looked into Armin's eyes, filled with patience and unwavering devotion, she knew deep inside that this was the beginning of something she had thought she would never find again. A new life, a new hope, a new love. The woman who once begged for scraps was now learning to stand tall again, and the man who found her had given her the strength to believe that she was worthy of everything life had once stolen away. And in that truth, she discovered the courage to dream once more.